The day I tossed my graduation cap into the air felt like the first page of a new chapter. Michael and I had our whole future laid out in front of us, or so I thought. We were just a couple of college sweethearts with big dreams, about to embark on what everyone hopes will be the happiest part of their life. Babe, we did it. Can you believe it? Michael wrapped his arms around me as we stood among our fellow graduates, buzzing with excitement. I know, right? It's like the last 4 years just flew by, I replied, leaning into his embrace. It was comfortable, familiar. But little did I know, that comfort would soon be tested. We decided to throw a small graduation party at my place. It wasn't much, just a cramped apartment I shared with a roommate, but it was ours for the night. The room was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and too loud music, just the way we liked it. Julie, dear, so what's next for you two lovebirds? Michael's mom, Jane, asked, her voice slicing through the din as she handed me a drink. Jane had always been the outspoken one in their family, never shying away from speaking her mind. Oh, we're just looking forward to settling down, getting jobs, you know, the usual adult stuff, I said, trying to sound more confident about our future than I felt. Jane nodded, eyeing us like a chess player contemplating her next move. Well, you're always welcome to stay with us until you find your feet. Right, Richard? Richard, Michael's dad, was a quieter sort, always tucked behind a newspaper or lost in thought. He looked up, a bit startled. Yes, of course, he muttered, giving me a warm but distant smile. Thanks, but I think we'll manage on our own. We've actually been looking at some places. Michael chimed in, his hand finding mine and giving it a reassuring squeeze. The night went on, the future seemed bright, and for a moment, everything felt just right. A few weeks later, we found a small house for rent. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a place for us to build our lives together. The day we moved in was chaotic, boxes everywhere, neither of us knowing a thing about setting up a home. Hey, where do you want this box? Michael called out from the living room, struggling under the weight of what I assumed was our collection of college textbooks. Just dump it anywhere for now. We can sort it out later, I yelled back from the kitchen, my hands deep in another box marked kitchen stuff. As we unpacked, we talked about everything, our jobs, which we were about to start, our dreams of eventually buying a house, maybe even starting a family down the line. It all seemed so possible, so close we could almost touch it. It's been a whirlwind couple of years. We'd even started talking about getting a mortgage and buying a place to truly call our own. That's when life decided to throw us a curveball. I was pregnant. The day I told Michael, he was over the moon. Seriously? We're going to be parents, he had exclaimed, his face splitting into one of those big, goofy grins that made me fall for him in the first place. Yeah, seriously, I laughed, my heart swelling with a mix of excitement and nerves. You ready to be a dad? More than ready. Let's do this, he replied, pulling me into a hug that felt like it could squeeze all the worry out of me. His parents, Jane and Richard, were just as thrilled when we broke the news. A grandchild, finally. Jane had clapped her hands, beaming. Oh, Michael, he will be just adorable. I just know it. Richard, ever the stoic one, had simply nodded and offered one of his rare smiles. Congratulations, you too. Fast forward to the day our little bundle arrived. Lucas was his name, and he was every bit as perfect as we'd hoped he'd be. Jane was the first to declare, "He's a spitting image of you, Michael, at that age. Oh, I'm going to love him even more than I loved you, if that's possible." Her words were meant as a jest, I knew, but they echoed in my mind more often than I cared to admit. Soon enough, Jane's constant presence in our home began to weigh on me. It started out innocently enough, her coming over to help out, cook us meals, give me a chance to shower or catch a quick nap. But days turned into weeks, and her visits stretched longer and longer. By the time Lucas was 5 months old, I was gearing up to return to work, and the issue of who would watch him loomed large. Hiring a nanny felt daunting, not to mention expensive. So, when Jane offered to step in, it seemed like the perfect solution. But it wasn't long before a new worry crept in. Lucas was getting spoiled rotten. Every day I came home to new toys, new clothes, things we didn't need, things we didn't even have space for. One evening, after finding a brand new, overly expensive baby gadget set up in the living room, I couldn't hold back any longer. "Jane, we need to talk. All of this." I gestured around. "It's too much. He doesn't need all these things." Jane looked taken aback, her hands pausing in the act of folding some of Lucas's freshly laundered, designer baby clothes. "But I just want to give him everything. He's my grandson." "I know, and I appreciate that, really, I do. But he needs to learn to appreciate things, too. He can't have everything he wants." I tried to explain, my voice firm yet gentle. Before Jane could reply, Michael stepped in, his tone surprisingly sharp. "Mom's right, Julie. What's the harm in pampering him a bit? He's just a baby." I turned to Michael, frustration simmering. "It's not about now, Michael. It's about setting precedents. About him growing up thinking he can have anything he wants." The conversation ended there, but the issue didn't. I lay awake that night, wondering if I was being too harsh, or if I was just trying to be the kind of mom I thought I should be. After we moved into our new house, a dream fulfilled by a tight budget and a hefty mortgage, life took on a semblance of normalcy, or so I thought. Our little Lucas was now a bubbly, toddling 1-year-old, filling the house with his laughter and the pitter-patter of tiny feet. Just as we were adjusting to being homeowners and the financial strains it brought, life decided to throw another curveball my way. I was pregnant again. That evening, after dinner, Lucas playing at our feet, I broached the subject. "Michael, I have something amazing to tell you. I'm pregnant again." My voice was shaky, teetering between nervousness and excitement. Michael's face, however, didn't mirror my enthusiasm. It fell, his brow furrowing deeply as he processed the news. "What? Now? Julie, you know this isn't good timing. We're barely managing as it is with the mortgage and everything. This might not be the best idea." The words he didn't say hung heavily between us. "Get rid of it." I felt sick to my stomach, not from the pregnancy, but from his implied suggestion. His parents were even less supportive. When we told them, hoping for some words of encouragement or even excitement, Jane was quick to express her disapproval. "Julie, one child is enough to give everything to. Lucas needs all the resources we can provide. Another child might just stretch things too thin," Jane lectured, her tone final, as if she'd just passed down a law. "I don't believe that's true," I countered, feeling a surge of protectiveness. "Many families have more than one child. We can adjust and manage. It's not about resources, it's about love." Michael interjected, siding with his mother. "Mom's right, Julie. Think about what's best for Lucas. Maybe it's not the right time for another baby." But my mind was made up. "I'm having this baby, Michael, with or without your support," I declared, a resolve stealing within me that I hadn't known I possessed. The months that followed were tense and cold. Michael's disappointment turned into resentment that neither of us knew how to navigate. When our daughter Mia was born, he wasn't by my side. He didn't even come to the hospital. Returning home with Mia, cradling her in my arms while managing the door keys, was one of the loneliest moments of my life. At home, Jane's attitude was frostier than ever. She barely glanced at Mia, her granddaughter, choosing instead to focus all her attention on Lucas. "Let me take Lucas for some time. You'll have your hands full with the baby," she offered, her voice devoid of warmth. After a moment's hesitation, I agreed. It would be easier to adjust at home with Mia without Lucas needing my immediate attention. But handing Lucas over to Jane felt like I was splitting my heart in two. The days turned into weeks, and Michael's visits home became fewer and farther between. He often stayed at his mother's, avoiding the responsibility of dealing with Mia or our strained relationship. When Mia turned 1, Lucas returned from staying with his grandparents. He had been away for what felt like forever, and I thought his coming back would bring some normalcy back to our fractured home. I couldn't have been more wrong. Lucas had changed. The little boy who left was not the boy who came back. He had become demanding, defiant, and, frankly, spoiled rotten. It was clear Jane and Michael had doted on him to the extreme, exacerbating the disparity between how my children were treated. Mia, in stark contrast, had grown quiet and self-contained, accustomed to receiving far less attention than her brother. One afternoon, the tension that had been building up spilled over. I was in the kitchen, preparing snacks for the kids, when I heard a scuffle from the living room, followed by Mia's cry. Rushing in, I saw Lucas standing over Mia, a smug look on his face, while she sobbed on the floor. "Lucas, why would you push your sister? That's not okay," I exclaimed, pulling Mia into my arms to comfort her. Lucas's face twisted into a scowl. "She took my toy. It's mine." "But you have to share, Lucas. Mia didn't mean any harm," I tried to explain, keeping my voice as calm as I could manage, despite the anger bubbling inside. Lucas didn't take it well. "No, I don't want to. I'll tell Grandma you're being mean." Before I could respond, he had stormed out, likely heading to the phone to complain to Jane. True enough, it wasn't long before Michael stormed in, his face dark with anger. "Julie, what's this I hear about you bullying Lucas? Mom says you're always on Mia's side," Michael confronted me, his tone accusatory. "I'm not bullying our son, Michael. I'm trying to teach him to be kind to his sister." He pushed Mia. I shot back, frustration straining my voice as Mia clung to me, still sniffling. "Lucas is just a child, Julie. You can't expect him to understand everything. You're always picking on him. Just let him be," Michael retorted, dismissing my concerns with a wave of his hand. The conversation ended with Michael walking away, leaving me to soothe Mia and simmer in my own unresolved anger and sadness. As Mia grew, her interests began to diverge sharply from the usual playtime activities. She showed an early fascination with building blocks and anything mechanical. I remember one evening, sitting down with her, watching as she intently stacked blocks with such focus and determination. "Look, Mommy, I made a tower." Mia beamed, her eyes lighting up with pride. "That's amazing, sweetheart. You're so clever," I praised her, my heart swelling with pride. Her intelligence and creativity deserved to be nurtured. I did what I could to support her interests, saving up to buy her a small robotics kit for her birthday since I knew better than to expect any gifts from Michael or his parents. Their blatant neglect of Mia's milestones continued to be a source of heartache for me. As my children grew, the imbalance in how they were treated by their father and his parents became more glaring. When Lucas graduated from high school, his grandparents proudly handed him keys to a new car, making it a grand spectacle. A year later, it was Mia's turn. As valedictorian, she stood on the stage, her speech moving some to tears. But when the ceremony ended, there was no grand gesture for her, not even a small token of recognition from her father. I, however, had managed to scrape together enough to buy her a new laptop for college, essential, not extravagant. Mia chose a technical college renowned for its robotics program. She was driven, and it paid off when she earned a scholarship after her first year. "Mom, I got the scholarship. My project got top marks," she exclaimed over the phone one evening, her voice vibrating with excitement. "That's my girl. I knew you could do it," I replied, my heart swelling with pride. Life went on, with Mia diving deep into her studies while Lucas drifted, relying on the cushion his grandparents provided. The real storm brewed the day Mia announced she wanted to bring her boyfriend, Ethan, home to meet us. I was thrilled. Michael's reaction, however, was anything but warm. Upon hearing the news, Michael scoffed. "Why should I be around to meet some boy she's bringing home? It's not like I'm even sure she's mine." The insinuation was a dagger to my heart. "If you're so unsure, why don't we just do a DNA test? Settle this once and for all," I shot back, the challenge clear in my tone. He waved off the suggestion. "No need to waste money on that. Believe what you want," he said before grabbing his keys and leaving, not just the house but the situation, escaping from facing his responsibilities once again. That evening, as Mia and Ethan arrived, the air was bittersweet. Mia's excitement was tempered by her father's absence, but I put on my bravest face. "I'm so glad to meet you, Ethan. Mia has told us so much about you," I said, welcoming him with a warm embrace. We spent the evening talking about their future plans, their dreams, and before long, Mia dropped another piece of news. Mom, Ethan and I, we're planning to get married soon. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you both, I managed to say, my emotions a mix of joy for Mia and sorrow for her father's absence. Later that night, after Ethan had left, Mia and I sat down, a mother-daughter moment that felt heavier than usual. I just don't understand why Dad can't just be happy for me, Mia confessed, her voice a whisper of sadness. Oh, baby, I know. I'm so sorry he isn't here for you as he should be, but no matter what, remember I'm always here for you. Always, I assured her, holding her close. The day of Mia's wedding arrived, a milestone I had both dreaded and longed for, given everything that had transpired over the years. As the guests filled the small chapel, whispers of excitement mingled with the rustle of silk and satin. But there was a palpable absence, the void where Michael, his parents, and Lucas should have been. Mia, dressed in a simple yet stunning gown, her eyes occasionally darting towards the entrance, masked her disappointment well. Mom, have you heard from Dad? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper as we stood in the small bridal suite. I've tried calling him, sweetheart, but his phone goes straight to voicemail, I replied, trying to keep my tone steady despite the anger brewing inside me. Just then, a notification pinged on my phone. It was a live broadcast notification from Michael's social media. Curious and anxious, I clicked it, and there he was, not in a suit ready for his daughter's wedding but in ski gear, laughing with Jane and Richard by his side, snow-capped mountains in the background. In a moment of sheer disbelief, I typed a comment on the live broadcast, my fingers shaking. Why are you not at your daughter's wedding? It took him only a moment to see the comment. We decided this was a better use of our time, he responded callously, the camera panning to show a smiling Lucas. Family time. I felt Mia peering over my shoulder, her eyes widening in hurt and disbelief as she watched the scene unfold. She turned away, her decision made in an instant. I don't need him. I'll walk myself down the aisle. From today on, I consider my father dead to me. As the bridal march began, Mia squared her shoulders and walked down the aisle alone. At the altar, Mia turned to the gathered friends and family, her voice strong and clear. Thank you for being here today. I apologize for my father's absence, he chose differently today. After the ceremony, at the reception, Mia invited the guests to watch a video she had prepared. I made this for my father, to show him what he missed throughout my life, she announced, her voice cracking slightly with emotion. The video was a compilation of clips, birthdays with no presents from her father, holidays where her brother was the center of attention, numerous moments of being overlooked and ignored by her grandparents. The stark contrast of her childhood next to her brother's was painful and poignant. The room was silent except for the occasional sniffle. As the video ended, the support for Mia was overwhelming. Guests approached her, offering words of comfort and admiration for her strength. Later that evening, Mia took the stage, her eyes scanning the room, landing on me. I want to thank my mom, the strongest woman I know, for everything. She gave me life, and then she gave me everything she could to make it a good one, despite everything else. As the guests stood clapping, I felt a mix of pride and a deep, searing pain for all that Mia had endured. But seeing her there, resilient, successful, and loved, I knew that despite the failures of others, we had triumphed. The next morning, as soon as the sun rose, I started packing. Michael and Lucas were still at the ski resort, their absence now a blessing in disguise. I moved quickly, sorting through years of accumulated life, deciding what to take and what to leave behind. By noon, I had rented a small apartment close to my work and had my essentials packed and ready. I called a lawyer recommended by a friend and set up a consultation. Make sure everything is in order for the property division, and I'll need to discuss potential alimony, I instructed over the phone, my voice steadier than I felt. I left the divorce papers on the living room table, a silent message to Michael that I was done. When he returned, the shock must have hit him hard. The first call I received was filled with confusion and anger. Julie? Why is there no dinner? Where are you? His voice was demanding, expecting the routine that had governed our lives for so long. I'm not coming back, Michael. I've filed for divorce. You'll find the papers on the table, I replied, my voice calm, devoid of the emotion that once would have made me tremble. What? Are you a moron? You can't do this, Julie. You need to come back and discuss this, he blustered, his voice a mix of incredulity and fury. There's nothing to discuss. I'm done, Michael. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said before hanging up, cutting off any further argument. The divorce proceedings were tough. Michael fought against the terms, but the law was on my side. I received half the value of our house and sufficient alimony to compensate for the salary disparity between us. It wasn't just a financial win, it was my freedom, hard-earned and overdue. Meanwhile, Mia's achievements added a brighter note to my transition. She had joined a prestigious scientific laboratory soon after her graduation, where her talent and hard work had quickly been recognized. She called me one evening, her voice bubbling over with excitement. Mom, I got it. The award I applied for, $1 million for my work on bionic prostheses. We're going to revolutionize the way we help amputees. Mia explained, her enthusiasm infectious. That's amazing, Mia. I'm so proud of you, I responded, my heart swelling with pride. With the award money, Mia and her husband bought a beautiful house, a place they could call their own and start anew, just as I was doing in my small apartment. The afternoon sun was setting, casting long shadows across the lush backyard of Mia's new house as we sat on her deck, sipping lemonade and discussing her latest projects. It was a peaceful scene, a stark contrast to the tumult of our past. I cherished these moments, seeing my daughter thrive in her own space, a testament to her resilience and hard work. My phone buzzed, slicing through the calm. The caller ID showed Michael's number, a name that now seemed to belong to a distant, unpleasant past. I hesitated, then answered, my curiosity piqued. Julie, I need to talk to you. Michael's voice was strained, desperate. What is it, Michael? I asked, my tone guarded. It's about Lucas. He's gotten himself into a mess, big debts. We've had to sell the house to cover some of it, but it's not enough. I was hoping. You were hoping what, Michael? I cut him off, not wanting to drag out his plea. Well, Mia's got that big award, right? I was thinking maybe she could help her brother out. He stammered, the request hanging between us like a bad smell. I felt a rush of indignation. You're asking Mia for money? After all this time, that's why you call. Before I could continue, Mia, who had been listening, took the phone from my hand. Dad, you're dead to me. Don't call us again. I won't help you or Lucas, she said, her voice icy cold. She hung up the phone and handed it back to me, her hand shaking slightly. I reached out and pulled her into a hug, whispering, I'm right here, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. Mia leaned into the embrace, her body tense with the effort of confronting her father. Thanks, Mom. I can't believe he'd only call for that. The weeks that followed brought a cold silence from Michael's end. Word through the grapevine was that he, along with his parents and Lucas, had moved into a small rented apartment, their finances drained by Lucas's irresponsible behaviors. They were caught in a cycle of debt, their salaries and pensions barely covering the interest payments. As for Lucas, my heart ached for him, despite everything. Our estrangement wasn't what I had wanted, but his choices, influenced by his father and grandparents, had led us down this path. I sometimes wondered if things could have been different, if there was something I could have done to change the course of our relationship. One quiet evening, as Mia and I sat watching an old movie, she turned to me, her eyes thoughtful. Mom, do you ever regret how things turned out with Lucas? I paused, considering her question. I regret that he's in trouble and that he's cut off from us. But we made our choices with the best intentions, Mia. Sometimes, that's all we can do. Our lives had diverged sharply from where I once thought we'd be. Michael and I were worlds apart, not just in distance, but in every way that mattered. Lucas, caught in his own spiral, seemed a universe away. But here with Mia, in her success and stability, in the warmth of the life she'd built, I found a bittersweet peace.